talk about what we think that a movie ought to have for it to be a movie and not just a piece of celluloid. What is the minimum it needs to have?
Okay.
Should it have... must it have a narrative? I think it must.
I think that is what makes it a movie, as in it moves from one point to the next.
Yeah, okay.
If it has no narrative, then maybe a documentary or...
No documentary also, well, it has...
Can have narratives, but...
Yeah.
I mean, Koyaanisquatsi...
is not... I don't think that's a
has
movie.
no... It actually does have a narrative. If you look at it very closely and you dissect it, but it is very art house.
It does not have a linear narrative. Let's maybe narrow it down to that, because it has a story. It says something about the world in which we live, but it's not linear. It is not a begin, middle, end kind of narrative.
I kind of think it tried to put it in there, but maybe we should keep that for a discussion on Koyaanisquatsi.
I think Koyaanisquatsi is not a movie. It is a beautiful piece of celluloid.
Yeah. So, okay, starting from Koyaanisquatsi being celluloid, art house, and then on the other hand we have like your quintessential movies, blockbuster, blah-de-blah. What does it need to have? It needs to have like characters that take you through the story. Continuous characters, so beginning, middle, and end.
But do they have to be like human? Or Wall-E is also...
Yeah, I love Wall-E.
So
Johnny Five. Johnny Five.
Okay, does it need to be a relatable major character?
Yeah.
Like 2001 Space Odyssey?
The problem is I don't relate to that guy at all.
But is it a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie.
So,
but
does it need to be relatable? It needs
my problem with the 2001 Space Odyssey is that the ending does not jive with the rest of the movie. Yes, it is a story and it ends up there, but it's so jarringly different from the rest of the movie that it's...
But it's still a movie.
Yeah. It's a movie. It's just not one I enjoy terribly much.
Okay, but I didn't say it had to be an enjoyable movie.
No. Enjoyment is not a requirement for it to be a movie. Not even us liking it, as much as we hate to say it, is a requirement for it being a movie.
Okay, so it doesn't. We don't have to like it. They don't have to be relatable major characters, but they have to have some.
They have to be characters.
They have to be characters in it.
Yeah, you have to accept them as characters. So you've got a lot of Disney movies that have no people in it, that have like animals and stuff, but they talk, not always. Dumbo didn't talk.
Yeah.
Does he? Bambi doesn't talk. Bambi, I should say. Sorry, I got the Dutch version. So yeah, talking is not required. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, did you see it?
Yep.
Yep. Doesn't talk.
Doesn't talk.
And it's definitely a movie.
Definitely a movie.
Yeah. And it is not, I would not put that on the same scales as Koyaanisquatsi.
No, because it has a much more linear narrative than Koyaanisquatsi does, because it actually has a progression of story.
So, does the story have to be linear? Or no, does the story have to be told linearly? Because the story will always be linear, because we're linear people.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be told linear. There are some movies which I cannot find the name of it right now, that are telling the story out of sequence. Yep. I personally find that harder to watch, and I'm sure other people do too, but it is definitely a movie still.
Yes, and I will go right there on my hobby horse, which is Love Story, because Love Story is brilliant in the fact that it breaks all the rules. He start at the end. He says everything that's going to happen in 2-3 sentences, and then you start at the beginning and see it all happen. You shouldn't do that.
Nope.
And yet it works, which is, I find as storytelling one of the most interesting examples, Because it is absolutely riveting and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's because you know what is going to happen, that you are sort of trying to, while you're watching this thing unfold, you're trying to figure out how is it going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you know it is going to happen, but how? And then sort of becomes what they call a how-done-it instead of a who-done-it. Becomes
like the Columbo.
Which are how-done-its and why-done-its and not who-done-its, because you know who did it. And still, it's an interesting narrative because you still have a linear progression to go for as a viewer. It doesn't have to be linear for them. It can be linear for us. And that's where you say Koyaanisquatsi has a linear has a storytelling, because to us it's the storytelling. It is a collection of images, but the storytelling
it happens in your experience because they have been put together in a certain sequence. And
And
it's more, I think Koyaanisquatsi is more a journey in like the way nature documentaries can be a journey. And sometimes you follow species, or you follow a wolf or a plant or a fish. And in Koyaanisquatsi you kind of follow
movement of life.
Modern life kind of rolls over you in various ways. And various parts of the... And the second one, I guess I am stuck on Koyaanisquatsi.
Powaqqatsi,
the second... was it called Powaqqatsi? That one does a lot less good of a job of doing that.
They went more for the modern life, but I think maybe the narrative was actually exhausted by that time.
Yeah.
It's do it once kind of thing.
They try to capture the one moment in Koyaanisquatsi, and they try to do that for a whole movie. And so now you're doing one moment rather than this whole movement.
Yeah.
And I think Koyaanisquatsi is more like a concert, instrumental concert.
Yeah.
A symphony.
Yeah, and that's but that is all that and like a music piece also has a narrative, but it is still not doesn't make it a movie. I think it's still neither a concert, neither a musical concert nor Koyaanisquatsi or Powaqqatsi are movies.
Yeah.
They are things with visual illustration, but they're not a movie. And a movie should have, I think, a little bit more strongly on a storyteller is telling that is maybe not told completely linear, but understood for a linear mind. So a progression of things, either a character progression or a story progression, or some sort of or a mystery, solving of mystery is very strong for us. We like that. The humans love to unravel a mystery. Discovery, maybe just a change from one thing to another, and possibly yet another. So you get three things, and that is a movie. I don't know.
Also, some movies are 3 movies, where you say, okay, that was great, that one, but without the other 2 movies, it's actually a lot less than 1/3 of the whole. It's like, but together they are more than each separate part. And then they build on each other. And you build on each other usually by making elements come back and bringing them forward to a higher plane, which is
the shorthand of filmmaking is of foreshadowing and stuff like that as story elements to.
If there's a gun, this is like the classical Hitchcock thing. If there's a gun at the beginning of the movie somewhere in a drawer, at the end of the movie somebody will have used it. Otherwise, why show that there is a gun?
And reverse.
And if you have somebody at the end of the movie has a gun to use, you need to know from the beginning that there is a gun
to use. Yes, exactly. And that is it's a very tropey thing, but it's not even a trope because it works so well that they still use that as
it's essential to storytelling,
essential to filmic storytelling.
But also written.
But written and with a book you can put your gun in the first few pages and bury them in 100 pages of all kinds of stuff, and then you still have it and ready to use later on. But with the film film, if you see the gun, it must be used. But in the book, you can show a gun and a globe and a thing and the hair thing and not show.
Yeah, but I'm actually not very big on elaborate telling, like, oh, they're sitting in a room and there's a cupboard and there's this and that. It's like, I don't care. As long if the cupboard's going to be used later on, yes, then tell me about the cupboard. Otherwise, don't tell me about the cupboard. I'll be watching a movie otherwise. If I want that much detail, I'll watch the movie. That's just me. But some people love like the elaborate.
Yeah, but it depends on. I mean, if you're doing like a storytelling for a crime thing, like anything like that, like an Agatha Christie type thing or Sherlock Holmes, then you have to be that precise because. If anything, it's because the people involved have that much attention to detail. Because Holmes will come in, sees that there's a globe and there's a hairbrush and there's a phone, and then he leaves again and comes back 5 weeks later and he sees another globe and says, but I saw a globe in the original place as well.
Exactly.
How that's important. Maybe the globe opens and there's something in it.
There you go.
That is why you have to put in not just the globe in
but
the first,
the hairbrush and the phone.
And the phone. Otherwise, it is too.
Wouldn't know which piece is actually essential. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Love that.
That is how all these detective stories work. Columbo just as much. Any Columbo starts with a whole like half an hour of showing the murderer doing stuff, and you sort of
it's very long.
Usually you see him move stuff about, you see him do stuff, and then when Columbo comes in, he points out all these things that half of which you registered, the other half is sort of in your brain. Oh yeah, and that pings in the people's heads so strongly, and the dopamine hit every time.
Is that why people love
yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder why there's such an interest in murder mysteries. You know, why specifically the murder? I'm watching Miss Fisher's murder mysteries. And Mrs. Fisher's modern murder mysteries, but it's no spoiler because every episode is the same in the sense that there's a murder. It starts with a murder.
Yeah, well, it's a murder mystery,
and it's a mystery, so you don't get to see who done it immediately. And then about 1/3 into the story, there's a second murder because there's always 2 murders. And I clocked that after 2 episodes, and every single time it's the same. And then I'm just waiting for the second murder before my brain is even gonna do some figuring, because it's usually the person you think it is the one who gets killed next. Because of course it wasn't them; it was much more complicated. So it's absolutely delightful. But otherwise I'm not terribly much of a murder mystery watcher. I'm like, can we just not have a mystery just like that? Does it have to be a murder? I don't know. You tell me.
No, it can be. It can also be not be a mystery for me. I mean, really. So, a narrative.
Some characters.
A
character is one enough. Can we do a film with just one person?
Yes.
Gulliver's Island, except without the Boy Friday.
There was this film called Mr. Forbrush and the Penguins with John Hurt. From the 1970s and 1970, I think, or 1969.
Did the penguins have character?
The penguins were real penguins.
Oh, okay.
And no, it was playing a student of biology, a university level student, who had to go do his thesis, and they sent him out to the Arctic to.
Oh, this is like Gorillas in the Mist, but then.
Yeah,
Arctic version,
and it's just him and the
version.
penguins, but of course the penguins do get some, not say actual character, but as a group they get character, and then there's the birds that come in and try to eat the little chicks, and so the characters that these birds get are from John Hurt character.
Yeah, there's story with the birds. So
there is story with the birds, yes.
Like Jonathan Livingston Seagull story.
Stuff
happens to them.
Yeah, but Jonathan Livingston Seagull, they get sort of humanized. They get human personalities. Whereas this is just a guy observing penguins, and his penguins have predators trying to target them. And they are penguins. They are nothing more than that.
And he gets involved?
Oh, way too much.
Ah, yeah, okay. Well, I haven't seen it, but sounds cold.
It is cold. Let's say he's there out there by his lonesome for way too long.
And that's the whole movie.
Yeah. Pretty much. There's a start of where he comes from. Okay. From England. He's British, of course.
The Martian? See, he's not alone. Mm-hmm. Because he's alone on the planet. But he's not alone because there's people on Earth and there's people in transit.
Yeah.
So it's not. Yes, it's a movie about one guy, but on a planet, literally. But it's not. It's nowhere near as desolate as what you described there.
Yeah, no. This guy in Forbrush and the Penguins, he's all alone because it's 1969 or 1970. He.
Yeah, you don't have any mobile phones. You can't be.
He's dropped there and he's picked up months later.
And you hope he's still alive. Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's definitely a movie. I can say that's a movie. So, one character is enough.
Bare bones. You need space. It needs to be set somewhere.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be set in one place, but it has to be set somewhere.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be specific somewhere as long as it is a space in which this character can move and interact.
Not even well, I suppose he interacted with the penguins, but yeah.
Interact with his environment.
So we'll find something to interact with. So how about just literally Gulliver and no miniature people and no nothing, just him on an island.
He'd be very lonely.
He'd build something, so he's interacting with the.
Yeah, that's. I think you'd also need a progression. You need a progression story. He needs to progress from one state to another, and that can be from anything from either he leaves the island and actually gets home, or he becomes in himself, finds a way to be in this island and be happy.
Well, the Martian is literally only that. It's like getting off the planet.
Yeah.
And surviving the planet. He doesn't have to learn anything. That's not not necessary to the story.
No, but he's trying to get off the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that should be a progression then.
Leaving dead people in space is not tidy.
Oh, it's very sloppy.
So we don't like to do that.
No.
However, for the learning bit, like I said, Woody Allen. I think the learning is actually done not by his character usually.
No, but it doesn't. So it doesn't need to be done by the titular character.
Exactly. So, titular. Oh God, you just used the word. Okay, let's just skip the word. But okay, the main
titular
character. So Annie Hall. My conclusion of that was that it's all POV. Woody Allen character.
Yes.
I have thankfully forgotten his name for the moment in the movie, but it is about Annie Hall because she's the one who does progress. Yep. She's the one who... And it's out of sequence as well. We were just talking about, is it linear? And it's not told linearly at all. It goes all over the place. And then, from one scene to the next, you're not quite sure in which era you are in their relationship and in their lives. But in the end, she has done this or that, but it's mostly that curve and come out. She's changed
and left him behind.
Yeah, and she leaves him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't do any sort of learning curve at all, and he stays put.
No, he doesn't. The only learning curve he had was that he didn't ask her to come back yet again.
Yeah,
that was.
But that means that the person who is the POV character does not
have to be
the main character.
The main character for it to be a story, and of course with Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, that has always been true. It's Dr. Watson telling the stories of Sherlock Holmes having the adventures.
Yeah,
and because he's up close and central or up close and personal with Sherlock Holmes, he is in the stories as well.
Yeah. And then in the films, he gets a different role by being the person that Holmes can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
He can voice his thoughts to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have at least one character, a location, a storytelling, which a narrative. I mean, a progression, but it doesn't need to be linear. however, it must be the progression must be linear in themselves, but the way it's shown, it doesn't have to be linear.
So, do you remember that original little bit of Pixar to show 3D? How 3D animation looks. So it's the little lamp.
Yeah.
That goes around the office and has adventures in the office. It's like 5 minutes.
Yes.
There's no person. There's
just a desk lamp.
I'm not sure there's a story there, but he has adventures.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows, okay, that's a movie. It's because the beginning. Sorry, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
It's not a movie yet.
It's not a movie. It's not long enough for a movie.
It's not long enough.
So it's short.
So that's another thing.
What length is the minimum length? That's a good question. I have to say that sometime in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, I think they had this fad of doing like feature movies that were less than an hour and a half. And it just annoyed me when it was an hour 20 and I'm already outside. It's like, what? Where's the other half of my movie?
Yeah.
You know, give me Gone with the Wind. You know, give me two
of them back to back, please.
Yeah, it's like that I don't like that. So I felt shortchanged at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, no, is this actually a movie? Television films are longer than that.
Yeah, but there's some of
They're an hour and a half.
Some children's movies from when we were younger, so like the 70s. They were an hour and 20 minutes, and for that it wasn't
for kids.
And I think it's not so much the length of it. It is what you put in it, and that should have like movies have, for reasons of history, an opening, a middle, and an ending, and this middle bit is usually cut up in 2 or 3 pieces, so you get like 5 pieces altogether. And this is the setup. This is a known setup. Works really well for movies. The question is, do we feel that if you don't do that, if you leave out some of that you don't have a movie anymore?
Well, I don't have an answer to it, but I do have an example. Ein Beispiel.
Oh.
Okay, an example is right. So, do you remember the movie Shall We Dance with Richard Gere?
Yes.
And Susan Sarandon?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Watch it. I want to watch and do it for the channel sometime. But I want to do everything for the channel. So
Later.
Not today. So I watched that and I was like, oh, this is so good. I enjoyed that movie. So I looked up the original Japanese one. Now we get to the difficult bit. You have the American movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah?
Very strongly. I've seen it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who's seen it knows beginning, middle, and end.
Very clearly defined.
Yes. The Japanese one has a beginning. And maybe, I can't really say a middle, because I feel that it was just like, it's still like, here it is. Beginning is like, here it is. Here are the players. This is the scenario, and then usually the thing is it's either a good situation which is about to go bad in the middle, or just before the middle, or it's a bad situation which you hope going to get better. It's one of those for the main characters usually. So it's kind of like that, and then the middle should show, okay, the protagonist should show some effort trying to either get out of the bad situation or to get back to the good situation.
Or get into a worse situation.
Or, yeah, and usually
depending on
all these beats that you have to hit, and then they hit for bottom, and then they have to give it all.
If it's a horror story, then it goes down.
Go down the drain. Okay, so we can talk about whether horror stories are actually movies. But this film just had, like, it's like a painting. This is the situation. And then we will show that for an hour and a half. And it doesn't progress. It doesn't end. And why? Because Shintoism, I think, or Buddhism. I'm not quite sure which one. But one of the reasons that storytelling is different in Buddhism, Shintoism, is that it's about things are. We don't necessarily have a moral judgment on this is a good situation or a bad situation. No, this is a situation that is, and is this going to lead to enlightenment or not? If it's not, then it's you're off the road, and you're off the way.
Yeah, and you might as well stop the movie right here.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens afterwards. And there's an awful lot of people getting killed in films like this because it just doesn't matter. You just go around again with your next life because this one's just not going to work.
But then the question is, if you have the film, if this is a way to make movies, is this a movie or is this just a different type of movie that is more of an exception than the rule?
And that's the question, because are we being super Western centric to say it's only a movie if it has a beginning, middle, and end, or no, this is a movie. It's just not one that Western sensibilities are trained to appreciate and feel like a story arc. I spoke to a Japanese person who watched, I don't know the name of the movie, but it was an English, a British movie about one of the British chefs. I don't know. I won't even know we want to say Gordon Ramsay because I just don't know which one it was. I'll look it up and then maybe we'll get it over here. But so this movie was about his younger years. So it's a biopic. And he was also gay, but that was almost by the by on the thing. Is he had a dad, and his mother died from bad eating, effectively. I'm just doing a really short, brief thing here. Now, the dad married his on the side honey, and this young boy's only child, and this on the side honey makes fantastic food. Now, I was watching this movie going, if at that point that honey, and they had to move towns because it was not okay for this guy to pick up this woman, and so they literally, it was maybe the 1950s or something like that. And but he goes to a new school and he signs up with cooking class and all obviously that's the end of his experience with any of the guys because they all like poofed her. So he starts cooking in the cooking class in school, and he starts bringing it to the dad, and so does the new wife. And they just keep making more elaborate stuff. And I'm like, they're being each other's
competition.
Yeah. And it's not appropriate, because this woman is the stepmom. Yes, she's half a generation younger than the mother was, but that doesn't matter. She can do two things. She can be, in order to have this be a proper life together with the three of them now, until he's old enough to leave the home, is she can be his friend or she can be a stepmom. She does neither. She decides to be the competition.
Yeah, dumbest thing you could do.
And I was like, and it's supposed to be hilarious, those scenes, because all the cooking and and I was talking to this Japanese woman who told me to watch the movie, and like, this is a cool movie, watch it. And I'm going, but that's so unsatisfying. And she said, no, it's great. She loved it. And I'm going, but that doesn't lead to a nice family life. I don't know. And I'm not saying that it has any specific thing to do with that she was Japanese and I was Dutch, but it was certainly a completely different point of view. Whereas I was dissatisfied with the movie. It's like there's such missed opportunities, you know. And he runs away, obviously, at the end. But but it completely ticked her box. So
we feel, and I do also feel that a movie should actually say something. Stand for something. I
guess so. So we're like, yeah, but we want some kind of point.
And the question
is, give me a point, and a point that I agree with.
Apparently, other people in the world do feel that that the film doesn't have to have a point.
Yeah, well, that could be. And if it doesn't have to have a point, then you probably have a lot more space, a lot more space for art house and stuff.
Yeah, no, but I don't. Yeah. But we're not throwing out anything that is art house because it doesn't make a point or anything.
No, but there could be a reason why art house doesn't make the big money. One is obviously that they don't get to be spread around with as much big money and doesn't get as much exposure.
Yeah. There was this, it was a long time ago, a two-part French film of Jeanne d'Arc, of Joan of Arc. Two different nights. We had to go to the cinema. I went with Mama to that. Mama likes her history, so yep. So two consecutive nights we went to the cinema for that art house, and it was only art house because it was French and it wasn't Hollywood. That was the only reason.
So only the art house place would show it, and not the big cinemas.
Yeah, and an art house. Advertising and art house everything, and that's
so what makes something art house is money, really.
Yeah, it is.
And so my next question is, does a movie need to have money backed in order to be a movie?
Not to be a movie, but to be seen as one.
To be seen
at all.
Points.
Yeah. Because you can make your movie, and if nobody sees it, and for that you need money to make the movie, and B, you need money to advertise it. And we being Dutchies, we know Dutch people don't advertise enough.
So many Dutch movies just don't even make. We don't even hear about it, which is ridiculous.
Dutchies don't even hear about it.
It's ridiculous.
And that's a question of enough budget, and you get something like a Marvel movie, and you can or DC movie, and you can bitch about them, and of course we do, but they understand.
You know about them.
Yeah, you know when they're gonna come out, and they will advertise them.
Yeah.
We will get to know it, and even if you don't want to know it, you will know it.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said for that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the numbers I heard at one point was it's somewhere between 10 and 25% of the budget goes to PR, and I think that's not unreasonable. If you have a product, you need to let the world know, and I will specifically speak to Dutch producers here. Is like, you don't let the people know. We don't even know what you're making. I found this fantastic, lovely little movie called Hartenstraat, Street of Hearts, and it is filmed in Amsterdam, and it is just adorable, and it's a very sweet Dutch romcom, all on location. And I found it because I was looking for a specific actor, and not because I had seen an ad or anything like that. So it's like, tell us, put money into letting us know. We know about all the American movies. Why don't we know about the Dutch movies?
Or the French movies, or any other movie that might be good. I mean, that's another one for another discussion, is how do you find the movies you want to see. But first start with what is a movie, and
I think the fact that it has storytelling in whatever shape or form, if there's a story, then it's a movie. However, if it's short than a certain length, it probably will be a short, or it will be a television production, or it will be not be seen as a full-fledged movie. If it's under an hour,
if it's under an hour, then it's not a movie. Then it becomes like a television episode, or part movie, or something.
And there's been some productions like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. These kinds of productions were all anthologies. People do want to make shorts. And nowadays they make shorts, but they're a lot shorter. They're usually 15 minutes, and they end up on YouTube, and you can do a lot of fantastic watching on YouTube in pretty much any genre. It's fantastic. So, yeah.
Storytelling.
Length. More than a little bit, yes.
Character.
Not a specific length. Yeah. Character, yes.
Anything else?
I want a character, and I would say, yes, we've been talking about whether it has to have a beginning and a middle and an end. So I think the conclusion is no, it doesn't. But the storytelling, it does have to have storytelling. Whether that just means you create a canvas and you say, this is it, and I'm going to show it from 5 different sides.
The begin, middle, and end, if all these are implied but not included, they count good enough for me, I think. But they should have some sort of some sort of implied progression of some sort.
Yeah. And what I like in storytelling, like world-building storytelling, is I like being dropped in the middle.
Mhm.
Is like, you don't have to lead me by the hand. Just drop me in there and I'm going, ooh, what's all this? And then discover things as you go along the way.
Do we need to be satisfied at all? I mean, with the food you weren't satisfied. But suppose you get dropped in the middle. Mm-hmm. There is a little bit of progression. But does it need to give you anything, this progression? Mm-hmm. Linear progression or non-linear progression, but does it need to satisfy you in any way? Would be nice.
I don't know. It could also enrage you or make you cry, which can be satisfying.
So it should evoke a reaction.
Yeah.
Some sort of reaction.
I think so. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
So we want...
but not boredom. That would be nice. I think, I mean, it's still a movie. But
it's still a reaction.
I've sat through some really boring stuff.
But were they movies?
Yeah.
Okay, then they're movies.
Really boring movies. And it's like, but that was from a day and age where, especially TV movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
They can be
so boring. Yeah, well, you know what I'm talking about. So... It's like, yeah, please don't bore us. But that still doesn't mean you didn't make a movie. It's just not a good movie. So, quality?
No, quality doesn't make a movie.
It's very subjective.
It's too subjective. A bad movie is still a movie.
Yes. So, that thing with the moon and the pie and the pie in the eye of the moon.
1901, I believe.
What's it called again?
Voyage to the Moon.
In French. And then that one was, at the time, was viewed as, how can you consider this a movie? But now we go, that's actually storytelling. That's a proper movie.
Yeah.
But in those days, they were like, huh, what's this guy doing? Now he's got another scene and... There's like stuff happening. What?
But that's a question of how of the shorthand that we use to watch movies because we don't. A movie is not like life, and it can't be because life is very boring. There's a lot of time where nothing happens, and the movie is a condensed version of that. If you're showing life at all, and only cherry picked the things that are interesting to see, and so. Skipping over things or how to move from one scene to the next is something that we've learned to do in the last 100 years, more than 100 years. Yeah. We learned how to interpret a scene change from this cut to that cut, and you know how we interpret that from and how we do things like moving the camera moving like that, a pan. That is something that people had to learn.
And zooming
and how to interpret what you see when you're zooming in and what happens when you zoom out.
And if you're allowed to show less than the whole
face
shape, the whole face. So that took a long time.
Yeah, the very very first pictures was the complete person with feet included, and then they started to come up to where it was just mid thigh, and then it came up to mid and then about. And now it's perfectly okay to have close up that's this big.
Oh yeah,
or that big.
Yeah. The close up of the eyes of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. That
was across, super widescreen.
And you have to learn
takes a long time.
As a viewer, you have to learn how to interpret that, and that's. And
also the audience has to be taken along and learn each time. Yeah. They have to be challenged, and that may be why there's so many action movies now that just throw the action, more action, more action, more action, because they have to keep topping themselves, and they have to keep
topping what else
more roller coaster effect to the person. First it was just the big eyes of Clint Eastwood that was already, oh my god, and they just stand and they stare at each other. But now you have to be on the roller coaster with the superheroes.
Yeah, because also these people that go to watch superhero movies also play the superhero games, and they are that confusing.
Yeah.
So people are used to that from watching something else. They're used to it now, and then they're taking that into the movie. The director takes that into the movie so that the audience can see that again, and new audience can see this as well.
And what I've noticed in the last few of the superhero films that we went to, one of them was the Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I felt that they are, and we also saw Thor: Love and Thunder. I felt that they are now coming down of, it must be all a crescendo up to, like, the first 45 minutes is a crescendo up to the second 45 minutes that's only going to be action, action, action. And I felt now what they're doing is that they're pacing the action through the scenes. Also, the Black Panther, both films, they put action in where action should be, and they put you back to the people, and that's actually goes back to when they were making the big epics in the 50s and 60s. They had quite a good
balance.
Yeah, balance of that going, because they couldn't do 45 minutes of oh my god action.
Yeah.
So it was always spaced through the stuff, and then you go, and the fight there in the middle, or the fight at the end,
and the drama in between, so that you are invested in the fight at the end. Because people who like fights, they're invested anyway. But people who are not so used to fights, you want to know why we're looking at these people fighting each other. You want to know who to root for, and how strongly we should feel about them. Because if it's Spider-Man and he just lost his aunt, and he's fighting the bad guy who helped kill his aunt, now we know why.
Yeah.
And now we're
and
interested.
Everybody can empathize with wanting to avenge your aunt's death, because everyone has an auntie. And
then you can still do your wonderful, beautiful action scene, and they're getting prettier every time.
Oh my god!
And for the people for whom it is important, they are invested in this now. Because now we're invested in Spidey. Now we know why he's fighting.
And that means that you're speaking to a wider audience. You're not just speaking to the people who want the roller coaster action-driven stuff. You're speaking to their partner who wants to enjoy Spidey.
They want to know why they're there.
It's like, why is Spidey doing that? Now I know why Spidey's doing that. Okay, now I'm with you now. And maybe the kids who are like, yes, we want to see the bangy stuff, but maybe we also want to see a young person in the film that we can identify with. Maybe I feel like I could be running that. You know, they're doing such a good job nowadays to really appeal to
the storytelling.
The full, you can go there with whoever is in your family. I want to go back to a movie that I felt at the time wasn't a movie. This is the second Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh.
And to me, especially the cinema version wasn't a movie. I felt like I came out, it's like, okay, I have just seen many, many battles. I don't know who went where and why, but I know that I saw that for 3 hours. And that didn't feel like a movie to me. But then I saw the extended version, and they give... It was a lot of scenes. I mean, I can't say scene for scene because I only ever saw everything once. But the extended version really gave me the sense of, okay, now I at least I can follow the action. I know why certain groups are going where. But I'm still not quite sure it's a movie.
And I think the problem with it is not the movie, is actually the books, because the books were cut up in threes when they were actually not written as threes. It was written as two, and that's why the middle one is a bit of a mixed bag, and the film couldn't solve it in the 3 hours allotted. It needed 4. But it is also the middle. So because it has no actual beginning and it has no actual end, you get this middle bit, and then you get very little of that because you're short an hour. You wanted that other hour, so just being in the middle is maybe not enough. So your movie who's still not a movie, even though you're being dropped in the middle, but because you were dropped in the middle and it has no end. That's, I think, is the problem, because you get not enough progression. Because there's a lot of stuff happening at the same time, because that's what the Two Towers is about, stuff happening at the same time. But that's not progression. That is all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, and how do you show people that? And
I think what they did was, in this case, is just say, we know the issues. We're just going to do it anyway. But we've already decided to do 3 movies, so we're going to be able to do 3 movies and fix it at the end for you.
And then you can ask people to wait another year to see effectively what is. So we have one movie that's the beginning, one movie that's literally in the middle, and therefore it isn't a movie, and one movie that's the end.
Yeah.
So all 3 of them make the one movie.
Yes.
And
it's just a very, very long one
movie. It's a 9-hour movie. If you want the extended version, it's a 12-hour movie.
I don't mind the 12-hour movie. I don't mind at all.
Works for me.
But it would have been nice if people had been informed a little closer. But some people were informed. But you can't win anyway.
It was a success, so it was considered a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to have some progression.
Yeah.
Some progression. Not too short. Characters. Linear.
I'm still not sure we need progression. Just we need storytelling.
Yeah, but
whether that means it progresses is up to.
Okay, so no progression. Would you like it if the film had no progression?
Have I just talked to you about that Japanese movie?
Yeah, but did you like it?
No.
Well, okay. So
I liked it until I realized that it was a good setup. It was a good first part.
Okay. So storytelling, but progression would be nice.
Yes, I would appreciate it, but is it necessary?
Okay, so it's storytelling. Minimum length, can't be too short.
Yeah.
A linear, but it doesn't have to be shown linear. It just has to be. Storytelling has to have something to do with linear usness and characters.
Yeah. I'm not sure linear is necessary, as long as the storytelling is there.
It doesn't have to be in linear order, but the story has to have some sort of linear.
Although I have not seen everywhere something and all at once.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't seen it, so I can't say for sure that it needs to have linear anything.
No.
That probably happens all at the same time.
Yes, but it should be able to to appeal to a linear mind.
I from what I heard of it, it does have a story, and there is progression. Okay, progression is necessary. I have to give that one. But linearness is not.
It doesn't have to be satisfactory progression.
No, satisfaction, we have decided, is not required.
No. Quality is not required.
Funds, however, would be nice so that you can at least tell the people about it.
Things like happy endings are not required.
No. Have you ever seen any Dutch movies?
It doesn't have to be a genre. Should it have a genre?
Now, see, this is the thing. Is some genres are looked down on, and then they claim, it's not proper storytelling, it's not a proper movie. And I will refer you back to Love Story, which breaks all...
that's a proper story.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, if that actually ended well, then people would say, that's not proper, that's not okay. Because there's nothing happens. And
no, but it can't end well, because he already said how it's going to end.
Yeah, which is also breaking storytelling. So I love that. That's why I love that. It's like, it's so cool that they broke all the rules, and still it is one of the most beloved movies.
Yeah.
So happy endings, absolutely not necessary. And genre, I would say, do not discount any genre. Every genre has its own...
It doesn't have to have a set of genres to be considered a movie.
No. Because saying there's genre X is not okay for a movie, that's snobism.
Yeah.
Snobbery.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've made some progress in
I think we have informed the world now of all the important features that a movie should have.
Yes.
At the very least. So we're talking like minimal features here. And I would really want to underline is please get a budget for the PR. Yes. If you don't get a budget for the movie, that's fine, because you can just film it on your phone. We know that now.
Yeah.
But
PR,
which you need a budget for as well, because the phone is not for free. But
take it to Cannes Film Festival. Take it to a bunch of other film festivals. Go to there's one in the States.
Cast your favorite people. Give them. This is what I want. I want like the actors that never get a chance but are so beloved by people because they were like tiny little role there in movie whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, but that one character just captured my heart, and I want that actor and that actress and that non-binary, and I want everybody that doesn't get a chance, and just put them in your movie.
Yeah.
And
then
blast it over the internet.
Yes, then
tell us about it.
Yeah. And we'll
We
come
want
and watch
that.
it.
Yes. and tell us an interesting story.
Yeah, we us personally, we just want to be entertained with interesting stories that says something.
Something new.
Something new.
Or something old in a new package.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Something pretty also counts.
Yeah, well, somewhere it says it's only 7 storylines, basic storylines.
Okay,
so...
well, have at it. So you have seven movies to make.
And there's so many varieties. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
And, well, that was my opinion.
And my opinion.
And we're sticking to it.